All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Tuesday, April the 14th, 2009 edition of the broadcast. We'll be live here with you for the next 4 hours, as per usual. Tons of news and information, topics of discussion, and the like to get into here today on the broadcast. We're so glad you all could join us, and we hope you're ready for another day of news, information, all of that stuff here today. And we got a lot of things to talk about, lots of interesting news stories today, very interesting news stories, things that I could really get into and break down for quite a bit of time. So one of those days, actually, yesterday was one of those weird news days where Mondays are usually jam-packed with news, and there wasn't like a whole lot of news, but today, so far, so lots of interesting stories. But I think sometimes stuff comes out after I'm off the air at 3 p.m. Central on Monday. So some of the stuff, if you listen to some of the late night shows here like Lee Rogers, you may hear some of these stories late at night. You may not hear me get to them until the next day because that subsequently they come out after I'm off air. So we've got some of those today, and may even have a few audio clips to play for you today as well. Don't know yet, but we'll have to see. But nonetheless, we've got lots here to get into and discuss. You want to join us? As per usual, wide open phone lines throughout the duration of the show. 512-904-8014. It's 512-904-8014. Toll-free internationally as well. And 1-866-841-1065. Chat room is open at oraclebroadcasting.com. Love to see you all in the chat room today for the interactive part of the broadcast. OracleBroadcasting.com is the address where you can go and check out the chat room. And lots of people in there chatting it up, getting it on in the chat room right now as we speak. So let's, we'd love to see you in there. I'm still feverishly working, putting the finishing touches on my film, The Secret Right, Volume 1, and getting ready to ship that out, hopefully by the end of this week to have it manufactured. But I tell you, so oftentimes when I get up here, in the morning after I've been up all night working on the film, the first thing that's on my mind, other than the news and other than the stuff, is, the things that the last thing I was working on before I went to bed. And the last thing I was working on last night was a section in my film, because we have some news clips, but I think I only ended up putting one of the news clips on this topic in the film because the other one's been seen quite a bit. But this one is this is concerning the Bohemian Grove, and of course you'll notice that a lot of these people from the Council for National Policy, the Knights of Malta, these different people are also members of the Bohemian Grove. And in this news clip, they state that Nixon and Reagan actually decided inside of the Bohemian Grove who would run first at the Republican National Convention, basically, alluding to the fact that it was already a foregone conclusion that both Nixon and Reagan were going to be president. They just decided, well, Ronnie, do you want to go first in this? Well, okay, Dick, I'll go first, and I'll go second. You go first, and I'm an actor, so I could probably do a bit better of a job convincing the American people to go to sleep. But you've got that charming personality, Dick. Maybe you should get up there and go get them. Have at it. I'll do my best, Ronnie, but we're just gonna have to see. These people aren't ever gonna figure this thing out. They're just too damn stupid. Well, I understand. Hey, look that's a great owl, isn't it? Look at that owl over there. Let's go stand in front of the owl, Dick. I don't know if that conversation took place, but nonetheless. But nonetheless, the interesting thing, and one of these things is like we talked about here. Excuse me. We've talked about here on the show many times about how when you start, this was one of the biggest rabbit holes for me falling down was going and finding out that, when you start researching all the Council for National Policy and you find out, how many of these Well, another interesting thing is to find out how many like the chief justices and the judges and whatnot, people like Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito and all these guys. You find out like, I don't know, like 80-90% of these guys are all Opus Dei members. So that goes back goes back again to the Vatican and to Rome, and then you find out how many people throughout history, currently and formerly in the government, have been Knights of Malta members. This was when the Vatican figured out they could make high-level heads of state, high-level people in the Central Intelligence Agency at the advent of that, Knights of Malta, to get them to fight the supposed communist threat, because they can operate anywhere in the world, free of laws, free of borders, free of justice or anything else, because they are charged under the guise of the Knights of Malta. So that's very interesting. Then, of course, the connection with the John Birch Society and how every head of the John Birch Society has been Jesuit trained. So we had all those connections, and there's been all that stuff in the film. But what's very interesting, what I think was to me, was finding out also that, what I didn't expect, there's all those obvious things that tells you that we haven't been specifically in the Patriot movement, because, when you find out that the Patriot movement was created by these people who all have ties back to the Jesuits and the Knights of Malta and the Vatican and the rest of it, then you start to go, oh, okay, now I see why these connections have never been put out there, and why anybody that's ever talked about it has been, basically insulted and called every name in the book. Well, I'll tell you what, all that is just well and fine, but this information now that I found out that I'm putting in the film, I just got done doing last night on the Bohemian Grove, is very damning, because there's a statue inside the Bohemian Grove called St. John of Nepomuc. And St. John of Nepomuc was a Jesuit who was he basically was trying to get to break his oath of the confessional and to spill secrets on the Queen of Bohemia to the Protestants, and he wouldn't do it. So they martyred him and killed him in 1393. And inside of the Bohemian Grove, there's a statue of this guy, St. John of Nepomuc, and he was a Jesuit. He was a Jesuit, and he was the patron saint of the Bohemian Grove, and they have a giant statue of him inside of the Bohemian Grove with his finger over his mouth, in kind of the little shh formation, basically saying, keep your mouth shut. And which is very interesting. So the patron saint of the Bohemian Grove was a Jesuit. Wow. Isn't that interesting? I mean, that brings a whole new thing. How come we didn't hear about that in, the Bohemian Grove movie that got made? That's interesting. And then, of course, so, I had to get that in there, got that in there and go, oh, okay, that makes sense now. These people that are Knights of Malta members that are, involved in the Bohemian Grove and everything else. All right, that makes sense. I mean, even Rockefeller, Kissinger, all the rest of it. And so I went, oh, okay, well, how come we never heard about that? How come that wasn't in the movie that got made about Bohemian Grove? All right. So then the next thing I know, I start, because I always known that the whole thing about the owl and then all that BS about how the owl was Moloch, I mean, that was the biggest bunch of disinfo. The owl is not Moloch, ladies and gentlemen, but yet I still see people that are going around saying that it's Moloch to this day. And that, that just to me just speaks volume for, because Moloch is referred to as the devil in all things. The owl is not Moloch, okay? And we're putting that to bed finally in this film. The owl relates to the Roman goddess, which also is another incarnation of the Greek goddess, but it's Minerva. And that's exactly what it is. It's the Roman goddess Minerva, and Minerva is always pictured with an owl. And so Minerva she was always the protector of cities and the inventor of basically everything that you would have in industry, from music to weaving to anything you would have in an industry, right? Well, that's interesting because everything that you have at the Bohemian Grove are heads of industry, right? Well, that's what Minerva was the protector of. Also, it takes 2 seconds if you really want to know and really want to do the research. But see, again, what are we supposed to think? When I see all this other stuff that's going on about covering up for the Vatican and the Jesuits and the rest of this stuff, what am I supposed to think when I see this willful ignoring of this information pertaining to Minerva and the owl? Especially when you go look at the state seal of California. What's on the state seal of California, folks? Minerva. There she is, bigger than you know what, in the state where the house is the Bohemian Grove, and there she is, Minerva, right there on the state seal. And then you have Minerva on Capitol buildings and everything else. So when they sacrifice care during the cremation of care ceremony in the Bohemian Grove, essentially what they're doing is they are sacrificing an effigy in tribute to Minerva, and they're saying that we are sacrificing our care. We no longer care about feelings or family or anything else. What we're doing is we're sacrificing our care to you, Minerva, represented by this owl, and saying that we will do anything that it takes to become successful in our specific industries: finance, business, banking, military, and everything else. It's just, these were the things that Minerva had dominion over. And you'll also notice that there's an owl that outlines the Capitol in Washington, D.C. And that's the whole thing about it, is that that's what they do when they're sacrificing care. They're sacrificing it to the winds and saying, okay, we'll do whatever we have to do to get our to be successful in these industries. So it's just like, there's one thing, another, because I heard in that film about Bohemian Grove that got made that time, saying that Moloch is a Semitic deity that relates to Baal and all this stuff. Yeah, it is, but the owl's not that. Baal was completely different. That was a Semitic thing. That went back to the Canaanites. The owl doesn't have anything to do with the Canaanites. This is a strictly Roman, and they have two specific Roman statues that relate to that inside of the Bohemian Grove. It's just amazing to me. I didn't really, and I don't really, within the film, come from the standpoint of trying to, quote unquote, debunk anything. But it's amazing how many things do become debunked in this film when you watch it, just by virtue of the fact that we're putting out the real information that's been researched and is there. So I just got to say, I find that highly suspect that, anybody with about 2 seconds worth of research could find out that the owl relates to Minerva, and this is why they sacrifice care to Minerva, and they have the patron saint of the grove, St. John of Nepomuc, who was a Jesuit, who was sacrificed for keeping his mouth shut. And that's why they have him there, is because he was good, he kept his mouth shut, and even though they killed him, he never divulged secrets about his top of the people that were above him. So, that's the whole thing to me. It's been breaking and busting my paradigm all along the way of making this movie. Because I'll go and I'm fine. Okay, I'm going to put this in there. I got to put this information in there, and I go and I find and go to put this new piece of information there, and then I find out something else. Like I talked about yesterday, a couple of weeks ago, when I found out that Dr. Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, was a Council for National Policy member, and he worked on the Strategic Defense Initiative with Reagan, Star Wars. That was paradigm busting for me, and the fact that he had ties to the Pioneer Fund. And that's going to be the last segment of the film, is the eugenics segment, where we talk about the Pioneer Fund, Roger Pearson, these groups that people like Howard Phillips brought over and made them members of these secretive right-wing groups, these people that have attempted to use science to prove that blacks are genetically inferior to whites. And you find out Dr. Edward Teller, the father of hydrogen bombs, connected to that, and you go, oh, so you're telling me that these people that had a hand in creating the most massive weapons of death and destruction ever unleashed upon this planet also were tied to these eugenics foundations based in Scotland that, of course, people that make films about eugenics didn't talk about either. So that's just the amazing thing is that how much stuff that has been claimed to have been talked about in the past that somehow has just gotten left out, So it's exciting, and I wanted to tell you about that and talk about that, too. It's getting closer and closer to being done. So we'll take a break. We'll get into some news and information today. Your phone calls as well at 512-904-8014, toll-free internationally at 1-866-841-1065. Tuesday edition of the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Let's talk about this. Former Area 51 scientists break their decades-long silence. UFO theorists and alien conspiracists, brace yourself. Former employees of the mysterious and infamous Area 51 are now breaking their decades-long silence and coming forward to talk about their work at the ultra-secret military facility. For decades, there have been reports of UFO sightings near Area 51, but the CIA only recently declassified a program that may explain some of these sightings. Thornton Barnes, a former Area 51 project specialist, told Fox's Bill Hemmer that a secret plane codenamed Oxcart was almost certainly mistaken for a UFO. At the time the Oxcart was first brought online, Barnes said no one else in the world had any aero technology like it. The A-12 Oxcart flew 2,850 missions out of Area 51. The plane could fly at 3 times the speed of sound at an altitude of 90,000 feet. People would see their reflection of the plane at that altitude and at that speed, and I'm quite sure that this was responsible for many of the false sightings. I don't know how long this clip is, but I do have a clip of it. Let's see if we can play this now.
Area 51 is the most famous military institution in the world, and officially it did not exist. Officially, but you could find it about 100 miles outside of Las Vegas. And here on the launch pad, we can show you tucked between an Air Force base and an abandoned nuclear testing ground, and getting about 100 miles outside of town, way out in Nevada's high desert area. It has become now the holy grail of conspiracy theorists, with all kinds of wild stories about UFOs. It was even referenced in the hit movie Independence Day. Area 51 was connected by a series of underground tunnels and trains to other secret facilities in that part of the country. But what's the real story? For the first time, a few former employees now are speaking out, and 2 of them are legends. Joining me now, former physicist Edward Lovett, age 90, and former project specialist Thornton T.D. Barnes, age 72. And gentlemen, welcome to both of you. And Mr. Barnes, I'd like to start with you. You kept secrets for almost 50 years. Why did you want to work there in the first place?
It was a project that we realized was saving countless lives in the Vietnam War. That was our focus at that time. The North Vietnamese had approximately 9-to-1 kill ratio against our pilots. We were getting shot down left and right, and we needed to know what our troops were facing before they got there. So the CIA developed what we call the Oxcart, it's the A-12.
All right, so I didn't realize that the clip was that long, so we'll pause the clip right there, and then we'll come back and take a break. After the break, we'll come back and we'll play the rest of this clip there from Fox News concerning this Area 51 on the other side. But very interesting, and, these are not that it really means anything. I mean, look, we always known they've had secret military projects. There always will be those. And anytime they start disclosing stuff that seems like shocking revelation and huge technological breakthroughs, it's probably at least sometimes 10 to 30 years old. So the stuff that they have that we don't know about is 10 to 30 years ahead of that. The Klingon cloaking devices and all that stuff, they've had that forever. It's just all there is to that. But we'll play some more of this clip on the other side of the break, finish this clip up, and talk about it. This is the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Tuesday edition of the show. I'm back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us. For the break, we were playing this clip of this story. Former Area 51 scientists break their decades-long silence I mean, it's not like I mean, come on. I mean, people are like, oh, they're revealing aliens. And even if they were, you would want to worry anyway, because it's like, what are they trying to condition us for? But apparently it's just them talking about some plane. But we'll play the rest of this clip anyway. It's interesting. Here it is.
We needed to know what our troops were facing before they got there. So the CIA developed the what we call the Ox card. It's the A-12 predecessor to the SR-71. And the primary purpose of it was to overfly Russia. However, we never flew over Russia at all with it. We used it in the Vietnam War to locate the missile SAM sites that our pilots would encounter as they went on sorties into North Vietnam.
So this was top secret stuff, and as you point out, you saved the lives of countless pilots through your research and your work. Mr. Lovick, why'd you choose to work there? By the way, they called it Paradise Ranch, not Area 51, and they called it Paradise Ranch so they could recruit guys like yourselves and your families to come work there, Mr. Lovick.
Well, first of all, good morning. Second of all, our families were not at all involved in any of this. It was, if anything, a bit above top secret for a while at least, about 50 years or so ago or so.
And Mr. Lovick, what work did you do specifically there?
My work always was involved in attempting to reduce the ability of hostile air, specifically the Russians at that time, the Soviet Union, the ability to detect our aircraft by means of radar. So most of my efforts were reducing the reflection of radar waves from the aircraft.
All right, and this was top secret stuff, as you point out. Mr. Barnes, there was an operation called, it was a flying vessel known as the Ox Card, and you mentioned this in your previous answer there. It had a bit of a disc shape to it to carry fuel. And when it would fly at night, it would catch the glint of the sun. And when commercial pilots were flying over this part of Nevada, they would look at that thing and they'd say, that's a UFO. They would land their planes in Los Angeles. They would be debriefed by the FBI. Was the Ox Cart what you believe led a lot of people to speculate might have been an unidentified flying object?
Oh, absolutely. At that time, no one in the world had a plane that would fly Mark III at 90,000 feet, which was what we were doing. Our cruise speed was 2,200 miles an hour, which is faster than a speeding bullet, a rifle bullet. And we flew 2,850 missions out of Area 51 alone and flew all over the United States. And then as we got into the war, was actually flying into North Vietnam. But the people would see the reflection of the plane at that altitude and at that speed, and I'm quite sure that this was responsible for many of the UFO sightings.
Well, so Mr. Lovick, set the record straight from your perspective. Did you ever work or were you ever aware of a UFO during your time in Area 51?
Well, actually, never a real UFO. What Mr. Barnes referred to was certainly a very good explanation of what was known at that time, because it was well above whatever else was flying, typically, say at 90,000.
Okay, I got to jump in here. I got to stop this because I can't let this go on for. This is totally ridiculous. I mean, okay, first off, number one, the A-10-12 Ox Card is the SR-71 Blackbird. We know they had the SR-71 Blackbird as late as 1959. That's openly admitted to. So why are they now saying, oh, yeah, what people were seeing, that was the A-10 Ox Card, A-12 Ox Card. The A-12 Ox Card is the freaking SR-71 Blackbird. We know they had it since 1959. Okay? This is totally ridiculous. So forever they've come out and they've told us, blah, 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 aliens are real, UFOs are real. Edgar Mitchell and all these people come out and say, oh, they're real. And now you're telling me they roll out some old spooks from Area 51 talking about, oh, the A-12 Ox Card. That's definitely what most people saw. That's definitely what people saw. They saw a UFO out there in the desert, and that's what they saw was this A-12 Ox Cart. Yep, that's what it was. We've known they had that since the late 50s. They openly admit to having that. You know, so, I mean, this is, again, folks, it's just interesting to me how all the way up until the time Barack Obama was elected president, we had all this UFO conditioning going on in the media, and it came almost to a complete stop once Barack Obama got in office, with the exception of a few stories saying, oh, he may declassify the secrets about UFOs. Yeah, And now they wrote these two spooks who are now talking about, well, we had that A12 ox cart, and that's probably what people saw. And yeah, somebody in the chat room pointed out that, you can't see a reflection at night. You have to be able to see that when the sun is out. So they contradict themselves right there. Let's play the rest of these spooky spooks, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Feet. It was almost 60,000 feet or so above what was commonly flying. And so the commercial aircraft pilots would see something, but they never were able to really see the shape of it. All they could see was some glint off the bottom of the airplane.
Yeah, it was made of had a titanium shell, and it was shooting across the sky 2,000 miles per hour, which could give you that impression. Gentlemen, I have to go here. Mr. Barnes, what is it like to publicly talk for the first time about your work there?
We're finding it extremely important for several reasons. We're involved in several oral history projects with various universities. We put up a website, and
what's the website?
Historians, authors. Yes, we do have a website.
And what's the name of it?
RoadrunnersInternational.com.
All right, we will check that out, and we will pass that on to our viewers. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing your story today.
And so there you go. And that's the whole thing is the fact that, okay, what is the purpose of this? Why did Fox News devote this much time to this? Why did they feel it was important to have these gentlemen on? I mean, what are they trying to convince us of or not convince us of? I don't get it. This makes no sense. There weren't any revelations there. There weren't anything about any sort of technology that we didn't know they didn't already have before this. We knew they had this technology, so what is the point here? I mean, the only thing that we can surmise is the point of this is now they're preemptively trying to backtrack and reinstate this ideology that UFOs aren't real, which would no, I wasn't talking about spooks as far as black people, but the point of the matter is, what are they trying to do here? See, this is the thing. Now I'm worried there will be a real alien invasion and not a staged one. You know what I mean? If they're telling us they're fake, they're real. If they're telling us they're real, they're probably fake. I mean, my God. This is the Global Reality, folks. Stay with us. Back here with you on the Global Reality on this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us today for the broadcast, and lots more to talk about here today on the duration of the show. You want to join us? 512-904-8014 is the number to get you up and on the air. But this stuff, there was absolutely 0 point to that story. There was 0 point to that news clip. There was 0 point to why they dedicated any time talking about that, other than the fact that now it's like they're trying to backtrack. They had all this conditioning going on for the past year and a half to try to socially engineer people into believing that somehow, UFOs are now real. And now, now they're bringing out some old tired story about the SR-71, saying, yeah, that's what them people seen. They said there's on some UFOs out there. What they seen was that SR-71. That thing, that's what that was. It's ridiculous. Because, the fact of the matter is, there are still real actual sightings going on. And look, I know some people believe that, there are other people out there, and there are people on this network and whatnot, and people that believe that majority of what people see out there is mostly these black op technologies, but I don't think it. I really don't think it is. I mean, I think that some of it is, but I don't think you can say that everything out there is some government black op aircraft any more than you can say that everything out there is some extraterrestrial ET craft either. Again, it's balanced. It's back to the same old thing. It's back to balance. You can't say that everything is this or everything is that. Undoubtedly, it's there's so much going on there we don't know what it all is. But nonetheless, why would they now preemptively be coming back and saying that what everybody saw was that A12 ox cart, blah blah blah. Yep, that's what you seen. I mean, we knew they had the SR-71 Blackbird as far back as 1959. Give me a break. It's just retarded. But let's get back into some news right now. Report says Bush officials to be indicted for sanctioning torture. Not gonna happen. And even if they do, they won't. Nothing will happen to them. It's a bunch of fraud. Focus on the Bush administration. Let's focus on taking those damn dirty Bush administration officials down. Yeah, those evil Bushites. Of course, Nancy Pelosi and any of the rest of these clowns wouldn't touch them when they were in office. But of course, now, to distract you away from what Black Jesus is doing, they want you now looking at this. Scott Horton from the Daily Beast reports that Spanish prosecutors will seek criminal charges against Alberto Gonzalez and 5 high-ranking Bush administration officials for the sanctioning of torture at Guantanamo Bay, with a public announcement expected on Tuesday in Madrid. The 6 defendants, in addition to Gonzalez, federal appeals court judge and former Assistant Attorney General Jay Beebe, University of California law professor and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo, former Defense Department General Counsel and current Chevron lawyer William J. Haynes II, Vice President Cheney's former Chief of Staff David Addington, and former Secretary Douglas Feith, are accused of having given the green light to torture and mistreatment of prisoners held in U.S. detentions in the war on terror. Not a damn thing going to happen to them, folks. Not a damn. Well, I guess it very well could. I guess they could burn these. Yeah, well, I guess they could. Who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. I'm just looking at the fact that, let's see. Well, none of these guys are Knights of Malta, so I guess they very well could. So notice that none of the Knights of Malta types are in there. Those are the ones that won't be held accountable for it. So they very well could burn some of these low-level lackeys for public display of show and just to make it look as if they have gone after some of these people. And it very well could happen. Doubtful, but very well could be. The only reason I say that is because John Yoo and Roberto Gonzalez and any of these other Feith or any of the rest of them are not Knights of Malta members. But when you go back and you look at other people who were involved in the Bush administration, people who were involved in the Reagan administration, on, and you find other neocons, high-level neocons that were, assuredly involved in giving the green light on torture, or at least involved in the Bush administration's criminality. When you look into people such as Robert Zellick and some of these other clowns that were definitely involved in the Bushes and rest on. So you'll see how some of these people will be allegedly tried for their crimes, and then others get off scot-free. Well, there's a reason why. Membership in the club, membership has its privileges, as they say. So there you go. That's definitely what that is. Let's see. Let's move on here. We talked about a couple of weeks ago how now they've been trying to give the power to control the internet over to Barack Obama. And now apparently it's gone beyond just talk, and now they're moving this into the Senate. Cybersecurity Act would give President power to shut down the internet. Recently proposed bill, but little notice Senate bill, will allow the federal government to shut down the internet in times of declared emergency that enables unprecedented federal oversight of private network administration. The bill's draft states that the president may order a cybersecurity emergency and order the limitation or shutdown of internet traffic, and would give the government ongoing access to all relevant data concerning critical infrastructure networks without any regard to any provision of law, regulation, rule, or policy restricting such access. Authored by Democrat Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia. Yeah, the one Rockefeller that, they had to make him a senator because he couldn't hack being an NWO killer. I'm Jay Rockefeller. I think Jay Rockefeller's about as queer as a $3 bill, too, if you ever looked at the guy. Most of these types are. Nothing against you if you're gay, but what I'm saying is these type of clowns get up there and say, yeah, we're anti-gay rights. Oh, it's so sick. And then behind closed doors, they're cornholing, Jeff Gannon or something. It's the hypocrisy that I point out. I guess someone needs to make that. Every time I call one of these guys a queer, everybody gets mad. Oh, you're a homophobe. No. Well, I'm against these people who are hypocrites. That's what I'm against. But authored by Republican Senator J. Fruity Pants Rockefeller of West Virginia, Republican Olympia Snow of Maine, the Cybersecurity Act of 2009 seeks to create a cybersecurity czar to centralize power held by the Pentagon, National Security Agency, Department of Commerce, and the Department of Homeland Security. While the White House has not officially endorsed the draft, it did have a hand in its language, according to the Washington Post. But proponents of the measure need to stress they need to centralize cybersecurity of the private sector. Well, look, well, they've already. Well, no. No, you're missing. No, you're wrong, Jericho. You didn't. Obviously, you didn't read this. No, they're saying that they can shut it down during any cybersecurity emergency or limitation or slow down during anything, which means it doesn't matter what happens. If they say that there's too much bad information, too much bad press going on about Barack Obama, that's enough for them to shut it down. That's enough for them to shut websites down. That's enough for them to limit access. You understand that this gives them total draconian power to do anything they want under any reason at any time. Hey, that guy said Barack Obama's shirt was ugly. Shut down his website. This is the kind of stuff they're talking about. I'm not joking here. This is the kind of power they're going to be given to shut down anybody, anytime, for any reason. I mean, this, this is, I'm telling you, folks, Stalin, if you brought Stalin back from the dead, maybe somebody should go get some smelling salts and some heater or something and go revive Stalin and bring back. I'll tell you what Stalin would be like. You know what? Put me back to sleep. This is too much for me. I can't handle this. Stalin would be like, this is too much. I cannot handle it. Barack Obama is too much tyrant. Cannot deal. I mean, he wouldn't even be able to deal with this. I'm serious. This is beyond anything. And, of course, it's not Obama. It's his puppet masters behind him. So let's make that crystal clear. More on the other side, folks. Tuesday edition of the Global Reality. Stay with us. I'm back here with you on the Global Reality on this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us. Before the break, we're talking about this article. The Cybersecurity Act would give the president power to shut down the internet. And, look, I mean, people are going, well, how could he have that much power? How do they give him that much power? Folks, they can give this clown whatever power they want to give him. I mean, that's all there is to that. I mean, it really doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, it's this draconian power where any pretext for any reason, shut down that evil internet. And what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with this? I mean, I remember telling people like 3-4 years ago when I was involved in the local 9/11 group that I helped create here in Dallas, and then subsequently left behind because, it was becoming its own paradigm, and I saw people were only in it for the money and all this, all this stuff, just horrible crap. But I remember telling people then, and people were saying, these people then, were like I was talking about earlier, people were saying, oh, well, what's the next 9/11 going to be? What's the next 9/11 going to be? What's the next attack going to be? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, look, there's not going to be another attack until they shut down the existing internet and bring on Internet 2. And that was back when, the big kahuna was out there shilling, saying, oh, there's going to be an attack for sure. There's going to be a false flag in October. It's coming. Here comes the attack, and then nothing happened. He said, oh, well, we got the word out. We staved off the attack. I mean, he got up on his show, and I remember listening to it. It was back in 2007. Oh, there's going to be this huge attack in October, massive attack, get ready. And then when it didn't happen, it was, oh, well, we staved it off because we got the word out. Uh-huh. But that's the whole thing is that what's going to end up happening is once there is another major event that, they know that we're going to kick their ass in broad daylight on, that's when they'll make a decision to be able to basically pull the plug on. Now, what we're talking about here is shutting down the internet within the United States. I guess I need to make that clear. A Senate bill allowing the federal government to shut down the internet in times of declared emergency enables unprecedented federal oversight of private administration network. So you have to listen to everything that I say, and I'll put that in the chat room again just so it's crystal clear for you. There. Doesn't mean that he's going to shut down the internet worldwide. I don't even know why we would even be trying to have that argument. That's not what it says. It says that while the White House has not officially endorsed the draft, it did have a hand in its language, according to the Washington Post. Proponents of the measure of stress that they need to centralize cybersecurity of the private sector. People say this is a military intelligence concern, says Rockefeller, but is a lot more than that. It suddenly gets into the realm of traffic lights, rail networks, water, and security. Snow added America's vulnerability to massive cyber crime, global cyber espionage, and cyber attacks has emerged as one of the most urgent national security problems facing our country today. Importantly, this legislation loosely parallels the recommendations in the CSIS, the Strategic for International Studies. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, huh? Well, who's a member of the Center for Strategic International Studies? None other than Mr. Pruneface himself, Paul Craig Roberts, the father of socialist Reaganomics, who you hear trotted out all over the talk radio shows as some sort of, hero. The guy's been, God, give me a flipping break. The Center for Strategic International Studies. I mean, that just shows you what a fraud it is right there. When you've got, this is largely coming from the phony left. This bill is coming from the left wing of things with Rockefeller and Jay Rockefeller and whatnot. And it's coming out of the Center for Strategic International Studies. And you've got these people that are on the right, like Paul Craig Roberts and whatnot. And that's the whole thing, is they sit at the same table as these globalists like Kissinger and Rockefeller and the rest of them. But yet we're somehow supposed to believe what they say when they come on Patriot Radio or they write, these shows. But you know what? That's not going to be that way much longer. I'm here to tell you right now, and I hope that some of these clowns, I'm here to tell you right now, when this film comes out, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to have zero credibility left. This is going to ruin a lot of people. I'm just going to tell you straight up. It's good. There are going to be a lot of people that are not going to be able to run operations anymore. This is one of the most dangerous films that's ever been made. Period. Period of the story. Why? Because a lot of these people in their operations are now going to be fully exposed, and they're not going to be able to do their ops in the light of day anymore. I've been holding back, and I've been trying my best to not, do too much hyping or really tough. But I'm going to tell you right now, there are a lot of people, and I'm not even really trying to do it. It's just I'm just calmly putting the information out there. But you know what? There's going to be a lot of credibility flushed down the drain by a lot of people when this film comes out, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So critics decry the broad language and are watchful for amendments to the bill seeking to refine the provisions. According to the OpenCongress.com, no amendments to the draft have been submitted. Organizations like the Center for Democracy and Technology fear if passed in its current form, the proposal leaves too much discretion of just what defines critical infrastructure. This bill would also impose mandates for designated private networks and systems, including standardized security software, testing, licensing, and certification of cybersecurity professionals. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say it again. If you're, never mind. I'm going to touch it. If you miss what I say, you miss it. I'm sorry. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't include communications, which are certainly critical infrastructure. The president would decide not only what is critical infrastructure, but also what is an emergency. As Jennifer Granick, Civil Liberties Director of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, essentially the act would federalize critical infrastructure security since many systems, banks, telecommunications, and energy are in the hands of the private sector. The bill would create a major shift of power away from users and companies to the federal government. Exactly. And that's what this is all about. All of the hands of everything that has any sort of power going into the hands of the federal government. And this is why all of this damn in the Fed, hey, New World Order, we know you're in there printing the money, man. Come on out, yeah. Death to the New World Order. The answer to the Federal Reserve is 1706. I don't know. Pass the enchiladas. Look, folks, they're going to end the freaking Fed anyway. They're already planning on doing that. They're putting out these good cops like Ron Paul and these clowns out there to make it look good so the truthers will feel good and go, yay, we did something. We affected change. We ended the Federal Reserve. Bullpucky didn't end crap. They were going to end it anyway. What do you think the privatization and the centralization and the socializing of the monetary system and the banks has been all about up to this point? They're going to end the Federal Reserve, and they're going to move to a new federally regulated central bank. Do you understand? This has been the plan for years, but of course, they're putting out these people out there to make it feel good so everybody can stand around and go, yay, yay, and high five and go, we did a good job, we ended the Fed, woohoo. Full pucky, man, and then nothing. This stuff is all, what a fraud. Yeah, exactly. Let's get rid of the banks in general. Third hour around the corner, lots more to talk about. This is Global Reality. Stay with us. Back here with you on this third hour of the Tuesday edition of the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us today, folks. Lots more to talk about here in the third hour. Lots and lots to talk about and get into. We appreciate everybody here for being with us today for the broadcast, and lots of stuff here, lots of more news, lots of more information to talk about. And don't forget, if you'd like to pre-order your copy of The Secret Right Volume 1, I made a big announcement earlier. If you missed that, I'll make it again. Everybody that pre-orders their copy of The Secret Right Volume 1, to show my appreciation for those of you that showed your appreciation to me, we will, everybody that orders up until this Thursday is going to receive a passcode, special passcode, that will enable you to have access to justin.tv/global reality. And everybody that pre-orders their copy up to this Thursday will receive a passcode for a special exclusive sneak preview screening of The Secret Right Volume 1. And we'll be doing that sometime in the next week. So that is going to be happening. So that's going to be the show my appreciation for those of you who showed your appreciation for me and my work and pre-order your copies. You're going to get to see the film before anybody else. And you'll get to see it about 3 weeks before you get your DVDs in the mail. So there you go. So secretrightmovie.com. That's www.secretright, secretrightmovie.com. And that is where you can pre-order a copy of your film. Also, if you'd like to support what I do with the work in the film, I'm going to be honest with you here. We pretty much depleted our war chest. Buying these DVDs, because we're sending them off to hand manufactured and getting the professional, cases and the shrink wrap and all that stuff. It's $20 and it's $6 shipping and handling, so it's $26 total for the DVD. $20 for domestic inside continental United States. Outside continental United States, it's more. But all those are up. All the prices are up there. SecretRightMovie.com. But if you'd like to make a donation, like to support us, so we can keep the lights on or whatever, you can go to myspace.com/Global Reality Show. That's myspace.com/Global Reality Show. We have a chip and banner there if you'd like to help us, because I'm still going to have to pay to have all the DVD shipped out, because we pretty much spent everything we had in the war chest to get the DVDs made, or we will be. I've already paid for it, and I haven't sent it off yet, but so that it pretty much used all of our funds. We don't have anything left. But in the end, it's going to be great. And I don't have any illusions about us possibly making back what we put into this. Man, it's just not going to happen. But anyway, there you go. Let's talk about this, and then we're going to segue into some more information. No, it's Federal Reserve notes only, man. Cash is king. Cash is still king. Cash will always be king. We're not borrowing for DVDs here. Sorry. No, sir. No, can't do it. I had to spend Federal Reserve notes to make it, so I got to have Federal Reserve notes back. I can't barter to get for equipment. I can't barter for computers and music, and I can't barter for DVD manufacturing. So unfortunately, we're gonna have Federal Reserve notes back for it. So sorry there, Mystic. That's just it's the way it is, man. Cash is king. That's all there is to that. GOP lawmaker can only name one of 17 socialists he said were in Congress. An Alabama Republican lawmaker declared last week that a gang of socialists are stalking the halls of Congress is apparently taking the fifth. Republican Senator Baucus told a gathering in Trussville, Alabama on April 9th that there were 17 socialists in Congress. Some of the men and women I work with in Congress are socialists. Said Baucus, but pressed to name the 17, he's only been able to come up with one, and that Senator self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders. He wants to know the rest. Sanders joined the chorus of reporters and lawmakers Tuesday pushing Boggess to make good on his claim that 17 socialists reside in Congress. Has Spencer released his list yet? Everybody's waiting with bated breath. I think that at very least, he has to tell people what his definition of socialism is, and I think he should tell us who he's referring to. Well, look, all these people are socialists. I mean, they're both on the left or the right. That's what pisses me off about this whole thing. You know, these phony right-wingers just throw around calling everybody a freaking socialist. You know, they throw around socialist like the left throws around Nazi. And then what's that do? Well, it keeps everybody in this constant state of thinking that there's any difference. The socialists, the Nazis, I mean, my God, these people are all one and the same. All one and the freaking same. And that's some of the information we're going to go to in Volume 2 of Secret Right. We're going to get into the, we'll get into the connection of the Fabian Socialists, but I want to talk about that now. And I've got all this information before. I'm going to go over it again. So I want you to see how it's not just the people on the friggin' left of the obvious socialists, but there's people on the right and the people that have formed these secretive right-wing groups like the CNP are have ties to the Fabian Socialists and the Rhodes Milner Roundtables and the rest of this from the heart of the Carroll Quigley School of Socialism, folks. A critical piece of information unearthing the dark origins of the Council for National Policy is the fact that Nelson Bunker Hunt, financier and executive officer of the Sumner Institute of Linguistics, ILC, the Religious Roundtable, the Campus Crusade, and the John Birch Society, and main funder and second president of the CNP, and Jesse Helms, whose top political operative, Tom Ellis, was director of the Racial Eugenics Pioneer Fund, and second CNP president, were members of the Racial Eugenics Society, the International Association for the Advancement of Eugenics and Ethnology, the IAAEE, which is headquartered in Edinburgh, Scotland. Established a branch in the U.S. through the personal agency of Lord Malcolm Douglas, a member of the British Cliveden set, who supported Hitler during World War II. Lord Malcolm Douglas, Hamlin's deceased husband, part of the British aristocracy, was the brother of the host of Rudolf Hess. When in 1940 Hess made his secret flight to England, Hess, a top aide to Hitler and Nazi Party officials, sought to meet with the British aristocratic circles known as the Cliveden set. Sympathetic to Hitler's war aims, the Cliveden set tried to get England out of the war it had declared against Germany in September 1939 after Germany invaded Poland. Hess was arrested and imprisoned after Lord Malcolm Douglas came to the U.S. He established an American branch of the Racial Eugenics Group headquartered in Edinburgh, Scotland. The oil billionaire Hunt brothers and Senator Jesse Helms are members of this group. It was headed by Robert Gare, who published the Mankind Quarterly until Roger Pearson took it over in 1978. For an overview on race and intelligence, Murray and Harrison recommended 2 books by 3 Pioneer Fund recipients, Audrey Shuey, Frank C.J. McGurk, and R. Travis Osborne. McGurk is the main authority they cite to prove that IQ tests are not racially biased. He was one of the scientific mainstays of the segregationist movement in the southern U.S. In 1959, McGurk and Shuey became leading members of the International Association for the Advancement of Ethnology and Eugenics, first publisher of the Mankind Quarterly. Other members included Senator Jesse Helms and the oil billionaire Hunt brothers. Carroll Quigley's Anglo-American establishment identifies the Cliveden set as the British elites who later formed the Rhodes Milner Roundtable. Cliveden was home of Lord Astor, a decisive voice in the Milner Group. During this period of almost 60 years, from 1889 to 1940, the society has been known by various names. During the first decade or so, it was called the Secret Society of Cecil Rhodes, or the Dream of Cecil Rhodes. In the second and third decades of its existence, it was known as Milner's Kindergarten and as the Roundtable Group. Since 1920, it has been called by various names, depending on which phase of its activities were being examined. It's also been called the Times Crowd, the Rhodes Crowd, the Chatham House Crowd, All Souls Group, and the Cliveden Set. The late Walter Lippmann was not only a member of the Mount Pearland Society, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Council for National Policy, but also of the American Roundtable. Walter Lippmann, George Louis Beer, Frank Adelite, Willip Shepardson, and others were a part of the American delegation to the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, after which they founded with the CFR with members of the British Roundtable. Thomas Lamont was chairman of the Anglophile J.P. Morgan and Company, and in 1926, Lamont secured a $100 million loan from Mussolini, whose success as a fascist dictator of Italy and aggression against Ethiopia would inspire Adolf Hitler. The Morgan partners subscribed to an idea expressed by Walter Lippmann in 1915. A U.S. foreign policy would experience a crowning disaster if uniformed by a vision of the Anglo-American future. Quigley acknowledged the Round Table's appeasement policy dating back to the Treaty of Versailles. Those who were familiar with the activities of the Cliveden set in the 1930s have generally felt the appeasement policy associated with that group. And again, you know, the Cliveden set, the Fabian Socialists here is who we're talking about. These people created the CFR. They created the Trilateral Commission. Their progeny created the Council for National Policy. The Cliveden set folks, the Fabian Socialists, the wolves in sheep's clothing, they have formulated every group on either side of the phony political spectrum. And this is why I get so damn mad and I get hopping pissed off and ready to fight every time I have to read one of these mainstream news articles where some right Republican comes out and says all the lefty commies are all socialists. Well, all your frickin' buddies are socialists, you clowns. God damn it, I can't even talk. I'm so sick of this that people can't see that this is a worldwide socialist system which has been created by the Fabian Socialist movement that originated out of the London School of Economics, out of England, and they have ensured that no matter who you vote for on either side of the phony political spectrum, you get socialism. And this is why the Vatican started making everybody that was the founders of the CIA that came out of the OSS. Why do you think the Vatican came in and made Wild Bill Donovan, Bill Casey, John K. Singleb, everybody involved initially in the CIA? Why do you think it is that they made all these people Knights of Malta? So they could use our military might to fight the alleged communists and the people that basically were Protestants that wouldn't be coming to Catholicism or Christianity. And they would label them all commies. They used our CIA and our military to go blow them away. That's the same thing going on today. It's the same thing because what they had to do was they created this thing called communism. They got people to come behind it. They got people to support it. And then parrot those ideologies. And then they labeled anybody a commie, set them for destruction. And then boom, their socialist campaign continues. Because people are too stupid to know there's a difference between communism and socialism. I just get fired up about this because when you know the truth for so long and you know what's really going on, it makes you pissed off to have to see that people still buy this lie. People still get stuck in Obama. You even hear truthers and people who are claim they're awake. Oh, Obama's a socialist. Obama's socialist. Well, Bush is a socialist, and a lot of these people involved in the freaking Patriot movement are socialists. Wolves in sheep's clothing media, and look at how many of these people in the Patriot movement are now becoming mainstream media. We're going to wake people up by hook or by crook if we had to drag them into this kicking and screaming. Jesse Helms is also linked with the Knights of the Military and Hospitaller Order of St. Lazarus of Jerusalem, which was founded in Britain by Robert Gare, publisher of the Mankind Quarterly before Roger Pearson. The Order of St. Lazarus was also established in the U.S. by Lord Malcolm Douglas of the Cliveden set and the British Fabian Socialists. In the 1960s, a Briton named Robert Garrett successfully succeeded in founding a branch of the Order of St. Lazarus in Great Britain, accepting many non-Catholics as members. The same Robert Gare was involved when an International Commission on the Orders of Chivalry was created with the main purpose of providing legitimacy to the Order of St. Lazarus. The Duke of Nemours decided to open the door to them, but this led to another split, and Nemours was himself deposed and replaced by the Duke de Brissac, who in 1980 abandoned the denomination of the order and gave the association new statutes, calling it simply Hot Husband Came to the Jerusalem, an obscure racist-led network based in Scotland and tied to Jesse Helms. Research have drawn upon a 1970 social psychologist, Michael Billig, Psychology, Racism, and Fascism, which argues that the origins of the racist and neo-Nazi movements of the 1950s and 1970s are to be found in British social science, and that is exactly where they are found at. And that's what people don't understand. Where did they get their funding from? Where did the Rothschilds get their funding from? Where did all these people? From the Vatican, ladies and gentlemen, from their big war chest. The guardians of the Vatican treasury, as the Encyclopedia Judaica refers to the Rothschilds as. Bottom line, So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. And we're going to talk more about the British race scientists, the Fabian Socialists, and how these Fabian Socialists that created all the groups, both phony controlled left and the phony controlled right. And you got to understand that it doesn't matter who it is. It's socialism either way. This is The Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Back here with you on The Global Reality on this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us today for the broadcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and being here with us. And Tim in the chat room just said he made a YouTube video about the day when I was exposing the whole thing on the whole Tea Party fraud and all the people that were behind it. Not being all these, the Heritage Foundation and the rest of it. But I wasn't aware that they came out with the article after that. That's funny, man. People are waking up, but yeah, that's awesome. Tim has been one of those guys that has been following my work and what I've done before I was even on the air. And I don't get a chance to talk to him all the time, but Tema, big shout out to Tema there. He does some great work on MySpace. He started out, one of the first things that Tema used to do, he used to do this thing where he created this neocon like MySpace to make it look like he was like a supporter of Bush. I love Bush, and all you dumb hippie commie truthers out there are dumb. And he would rope people in and then hit them with truth when they weren't looking. Oh, that's good stuff right there. That's the kind of innovation I'm talking about. Where you can come up with new things, new ideas. And then, to be honest with you, that really people took Tim's idea from that. After that, and that's when people started making DVDs and say, like, whatever the new hot movie was out, it'd be like Transformers Volume 1, get it here, and then you get it and it would be loose change or something, That's when people started doing that after Tim started doing that. They ripped him off. I did that a few times, actually, when I was out handing out DVDs in Dealey Plaza. I'd make one stack of about 10 DVDs. It would be like Transformers or whatever the hot movie was, that was out at that time. I'd make like a stack of those in a big, hey, you want a free DVD? It's about 9/11. No, I don't want that. What else you got? Oh, well, here, I got the new Transformers. Ooh, I'll take that. And they'd get it and they'd take it home, and it would be like, 9/11 Mysteries or something, That's good. But I'm going to get back into this information on the Isle of Man symbol. The Isle of Man symbol and lawyers. The Isle of Man symbol. No, not familiar with that. Not familiar with that, Rob, but I will look into it and do my best to look into it. But let's get back into this. On the break, we're talking about the British race scientists, the Fabian Socialists, and how they created, all of these groups on either side of the phony political spectrum. It's a very important piece of information that people need to understand. Because one of the things that we've got to start being able to do is to show people how, when they hear these right-wing pundits on mainstream media throw around these terminologies and it's all a bunch of socialists. They need to understand that the socialists are embedded in the right wing as well. See, that's the whole thing here. This is why I felt it's so important to make this documentary film about the Council for National Policy and the Knights of Malta and all the rest of it. Is because this is real journalism here, and in real journalism, you're not biased, you're objective, and your only goal in journalism is to expose the entire system of corruption or whatever it is that your particular focus is. So if you're only focusing on one end of it, that's biased journalism. And I'm sorry, what's passed as journalism in the Patriot movement and the alternative media up to this point has been biased journalism that has wanted to give you one side of the story and one side of the story only. And then, of course, we know why that is. We look at who funded all these groups and started all these groups. It just happens to be the people who they won't talk about. I don't understand how people can't figure that out either. how people can't figure out that the reason why these people don't talk about the Jesuits and the Vatican and the rest of it is because they're controlled by them, and all the proof is there. I didn't believe it either until I started making this film, and I started finding this, going, wait a second here. I thought this was all BS, and lo and behold, here it is. My goodness. I mean, I didn't want to have to believe this stuff, but folks, what am I supposed to do? Not talk about it or to not believe it once the information is there in a million different cases? I mean, that's something like I talked about earlier, the segment I just finished last night about the Bohemian Grove, where you've got two icons inside of the Bohemian Grove that go back to ancient Rome. You've got the statue of St. John the Nepomuc, who was a Jesuit, who was martyred for keeping his mouth shut. Then you've got the owl that is not Moloch, and all that friggin' disinformation about being Moloch. The owl is Minerva and relates to Minerva. Of course, Minerva's on the state seal of California. So you have two that tie back to Rome and tie back to the Vatican inside of the Bohemian Grove. But lo and behold, when the Bohemian Grove movie was made, that didn't get mentioned. So, and that was one of those things, I wasn't intending to debunk it. It's just when I found that information, it's like, whoa. Because I'd already had all this information about all these people that were in, people like Paul Craig, or people like, all the heads of the John Birch Society being trained by Jesuits. And all these people being Knights of Malta like Pat Buchanan and, oh God, there's just so many of them. I can't even name them all. All of these friggin' Knights of Malta people. It is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable to me to see that when I wasn't even trying to make another connection back to the Vatican and to Rome and the rest of this, there it is. It's just there in front of me. So that was just like another cherry on top of everything else that I already had, Moloch has always been related to the devil or anything else. But I've got 10 examples of Minerva, and of course. Anyway, in regards to that, and I've talked too much about that. We're coming on a break again. We'll get back into this information on the Fabian Socialists and whatnot. But it's just amazing, man. It's everywhere I look, there's a connection back, and everywhere I look, there's a connection to show that we've been lied to. Yeah, of course I reneged on that old stance. I thought the Jew and Jesuit factions were just another dialectic, but you're exactly right, Eric. Once you find out that they're one and the same, once you find out that, look, when you've got Protestants and Freemasons and Jesuits and Knights of Malta and these guys that are also supposed to be on opposing factions, opposing sides, all in these secretive groups. That's when that was a wake-up call for me to go, whoa, wait a second. There's no factions between these people. They're all working together for the same goals and purpose, and that's total control and total enslavement. More on the other side. Tuesday edition of The Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Back here with you on The Global Reality on this Tuesday edition. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to jump back into this information about the Fabian Socialists and the CNP here. Jesse Helms is also linked with the Knights of Military and Hospitaller Order of St. Lazarus of Jerusalem, which was founded in Britain by Robert Gare, publisher of the Mankind Quarterly before Roger Pearson. The Order of St. Lazarus was also established in the U.S. by Lord Malcolm Douglas of the Cliveden set of the Fabian Socialists. Scholars examining the relationship between right-wing politics and racial research have drawn on a 1979 work by social psychologist Michael Billig. Since it was established in 1960, the Mankind Quarterly has had the same overall editor, Professor Robert Gare, a physical anthropologist trained at Edinburgh University. He was formerly professor of anthropology at the University of Sangha in India, but now is a resident in Edinburgh, where the Mankind Quarterly is published. Gare's contacts with British fascists came to light when 5 members of the Racial Preservation Society were prosecuted in 1968 at Lewes under the Race Relations Act for publishing racial material. At the time of the offense, the Racial Preservation Society was an independent body, but by the time of the trial, it had officially merged into the National Front. And the Roger Pearson became chairman of the World Anti-Communist League and was responsible for flooding European chapters with Nazi sympathizers and former Nazi SS officers. Searchlight credits the Pioneer Fund under the direction of the second CNP president, Tom Ellis, with financing the work of numerous Anglo-American race scientists such as Pearson. And this is all this information here that we're talking about now concerning eugenics is going to be in the final segment in the new film, Secret Right, Volume 1. Indeed, most of the leading Anglo-American academic race scientists of the past several decades have been funded by the Pioneer Fund, including William Shockley, Arthur Jensen, Roger Pearson, Philip J. Rushton, and others, and all cited in the book The Bell Curve. But the Pioneer Fund's importance in the history of post-war race science far exceeds its size or the size of its grants. With almost laser-like precision, the Pioneer Fund has been at the cutting edge of almost every race conflict in the United States since its founding in 1937. An article in the New York Times on December 11, 1977 characterized it as having supported highly controversial research by a dozen scientists who believe that blacks are genetically less intelligent than whites. The fascist ideologist Roger Pearson, whose Institute for the Study of Men has become one of the top Pioneer Fund beneficiaries of the past 20 years, is the clearest example of the extremist ideology of the fund's leadership. Pearson, who published the Mankind Quarterly after Robert Guerin served on the editorial board of the Heritage Foundation's Policy Review, is a Briton who obtained his master's degree at the London School of Economics. The London School of Economics was founded in 1894 and financed by the British Fabian Society as a long-term investment to educate and train an elite workforce to carry out the schemes of socialist reform. All this information, word for word, is going to be in my film. The London School of Economics is now one of the largest schools at the University of London and has an international reputation. Over half of its 5,000 students are academic staff or from outside the United Kingdom. 5 of its former staff members have won Nobel Prizes in Journal of International Studies. Millennium enjoys a worldwide circulation and recognition. The London School of Economics also provides consultants to many organizations, including the UK government, international bodies such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the United Nations. The Ford Foundation, which funds and whose members serve as trustees on the Council on Foreign Relations, provided a grant in 1967 to the London School of Economics for a Center for International Studies. The European Institute of the LSE participates actively in the European Series conferences on issues concerning the European Union. In his book, The Committee of 300, former British MI6 officer John Coleman revealed that a high-level Fabian Society member and agent of the Tavistock Institute also managed the Heritage Foundation. There is no mention of Sir Peter Vickers Hall on the Heritage website, but then Heritage has covered its fascist tracks on other occasions. Roger Pearson's tenure on Heritage Policy's review editorial board was short-lived due to a Washington Post expose of the racist and fascist undercurrents of a World Anti-Communist League chaired by Pearson in May 1978 in Washington, D.C. Dr. Coleman's remarks are worth including as supportive of other sources which locate the origins of the right-wing Council for National Policy in the British Round Table and Fabian Society, which has the reputation of being a socialist organization. The Committee of 300, through its many affiliated organizations, was able to nullify the Reagan presidency. Here's what Stuart Butler of the Heritage Foundation had to say on the subject. Quote, "The right thought it had won in 1980, but in fact, it had lost. What Butler was referring to was the situation in which the right found itself when it realized that every single, now listen to this, the right thought it had won in 1980, but in fact it had lost. What he was referring to was a situation in which the right found itself when it realized that every single position of importance in the Reagan administration was filled by Fabianist appointees recommended by the Heritage Foundation." Let me read that for you again. Every single position of importance in the Reagan administration was filled by Fabianist appointees recommended by the Heritage Foundation. Every single one of them, folks. And I've got this clip here, if I can get to it real quick. I'll play it for you. And this is out of my film, straight out of my film here, Secret Right Volume 1, and this is a mainstream news report on the Heritage Foundation. Here it is.
Suggested blueprint today for the Reagan administration from the Heritage Foundation, an influential conservative research group. Included in that blueprint, a cut in minority programs, use of food as a weapon in international affairs, and a revival of international security committees. The House Committee, formerly known as the Committee on Un-American Activities, received prominence in the early 50s with the McCarthy hearings. Reagan aides said they will consider this report, but declined to be specific on its impact. Conservative groups like Heritage Foundation were sharply criticized by Senate Democratic leader Robert Byrd today. He charged these groups are more powerful when people don't bother to vote, and they could, according to Byrd, destroy the political system. Byrd also leveled some very tough criticism at his own party.
And so there you go. And that is a sneak preview for you there. That is a mainstream news clip out of my new film, The Secret Right, Volume 1. You guys got a little sneak peek today, a little taste there. And yeah, exactly. Food is a weapon, cutting minority programs. So let me read that for you again. Every single position of importance in the Reagan administration was filled by Fabianist socialist appointees recommended by the Heritage Foundation. You notice at the beginning of that, she says, a blueprint for the Reagan administration handed down from the Heritage Foundation. Case closed. The prosecution rests, Your Honor. What more information do you need here? So this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This is what we're nailing. So this is coffin nails for these people. That's why I can't wait for you to see this movie, because we're nailing the coffin shut on them, folks. Man, I'm ready for people to understand this. Butler went on to say that the Heritage would use right-wing ideas to impose left-wing radical principles upon the United States. Boom. 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 That's exactly what they've done. The Heritage Foundation would use right-wing ideas. And again, you'll see people talking about the Tea Party. Who funded the Tea Parties? Why don't you go look that up? The Heritage Foundation. Hello? The Heritage Foundation would use right-wing ideas to impose left-wing radical principles upon the United States. The same radical ideas with Sir Peter Vickers Hall, top Fabianist in the U.S. and #1 man at Heritage, have been openly discussing during the election year. Wrap it up, put a bow on it, put a cherry on top, and call it done, because we're putting the coffin nails in these clowns. You guys are going down. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Left, right, it doesn't matter. If you're New World Order, you're dead in the water. Period. More on the other side. This is the Global Reality. Stay with us. Back here with you on the Global Reality on this Tuesday edition. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us. And yeah, I don't know if you saw that, if all you saw that cartoon that I put in the chat room there. That was in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer a few years ago, December 12, 2007. Right when the Ron Paul campaign was getting going hot and heavy. And it's a picture of an angel in heaven, right? And you see this, like, the light of God coming out of the corner, and it says, Huckabee and Romney both seem to be claiming your endorsement. And then God says, back to the angel, God says, well, that's presumptuous. Let's surprise them and turn out the Catholics for Ron Paul. Oh, my God. Folks, they've been rubbing this stuff in our face forever. And we were all of us, myself included, bought the lie. We're so enamored by the Patriot movement, we couldn't see it. It was right there. They've been trying to tell us all along. It's been a big, sick joke. I mean, goodness. There it is. But, we played that clip out of my film from, the Heritage Foundation. I mean, and saying that, this quote from Stuart Butler from the Heritage Foundation saying that, the right was in trouble when they found that every single position of importance had been filled by a Fabian socialist in the Reagan administration. I mean, goodness. Go look at Reaganomics. That thing was intended if it was one of the biggest socialists. The Reaganomics is what got us in this friggin' situation we're in right now. Sir Peter Vickers Hall remained an active Fabianist, even though he was running a conservative think tank as a member of the British oligarchical Vickers armament manufacturing family. He had a position in power. The Vickers family supplied both sides of the First World War, and again during Hitler's rise to power. Vickers' official cover was the University of California's Urban and Regional Development Institute. He was a longtime confidant of British Labour leader and Committee of 300 member Anthony Wedgwood Benn. Both Vickers and Benn are integrated with the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations, the premier brainwashing institution in the world. Although the Fabian Socialist Society has a reputation of being a pioneer of the 19th century socialist movement, the Fabians were neither right nor left wing, but were elitists. The Fabian Society was founded in 1883 by members of the Society for Psychiatrical Research, which was a creation of the Cecil Block of the Rhodes Roundtable. A brief history of these immensely influential organizations will show how the parent organizations of the Great Britain masterminded and modeled the very sophisticated dialectical operation which their progeny are now perpetrating worldwide. Those in whose purview is the control of information about the religious right must stop all investigation at the point where Rockefeller or the Nazis or the CIA are identified as the culprits. Now listen to this. This is key right here, because this pretty much to me wraps up the whole idea of what the Patriot Truth Movement has intended to do up to this point. Those in whose purview is the control of information about the religious right must stop all investigation at the point where Rockefeller or the Nazis or the CIA are identified as the culprits. At all costs, the point of origin must not be identified as Great Britain. However, the proper place to conclude our inquiry is to identify the British societies which have reproduced their counterparts in the U.S. Among these, they have also planned organizations for the purposes of indoctrinating Christians to look somewhere out there for the conspiracy while they are being ushered into the New World Order via the back door by their leaders. And that is exactly what this phony Patriot movement has done up to this point. They have gotten Christians looking out there for the conspiracy. Look out there at the Jews and the Jew World Order that wants to tear down your religion. Meanwhile, the leaders who are putting out this are ushering in the back door of the New World Order just as much as anybody else is. Man, it feels good when you find out what's really going on. When you realize that you shattered that paradigm that you bought and you went, oh my God, it's deeper than I thought. It's unbelievable. Great Britain functions in a caste system which values heredity above all else. Research on heredity as a determining factor of successful living is common in English and Scottish academic institutions. Interlocking families of high social rank have considered themselves to be the saviors of mankind. Oxford, Cambridge, and Edinburgh universities have especially been the province of the sons and daughters of the elite, whose parents belong to the upper echelon of British society. The intellectual capital of these universities and their elite societies would find a way to eliminate the human weeds and populate the earth with a race of thoroughbreds. Terms invented by the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, who frequented the eugenic societies of Europe and Great Britain in her heyday of Rockefeller-funded racism. Well, that's interesting because, of course, the H.L. Hunt, Nelson Bunker Hunt, rather, the son of H.L. Hunt, who was put up the initial startup money to the Reverend Tim LaHaye to form the Council for National Policy, was also the largest funder of the John Birch Society at that point. The original funder of the John Birch Society to Robert Welsh was Nelson Rockefeller. And then subsequently in the early 1980s, after Nelson Rockefeller ran for president and all that happened, then he got his other buddy, Nelson Bunker Hunt, to be the predominant funder of the John Birch Society. And that's interesting because the Nelson Rockefeller was Knights of Malta. H.L. Hunt, Nelson Bunker Hunt, both Knights of Malta as well. And both of these individuals, when you see that he was funding the International Association for Ethnology and Eugenics in Edinburgh, Scotland, Nelson Bunker Hunt he was putting up money for the JBS, the CNP, and the International Association for Ethnology and Eugenics in Edinburgh, Scotland, all at once. And I've got pictures of him, of Nelson Bunker Hunt in the film, and there he is with the Queen of England. Guess what one of his hobbies is? He's a horse breeder with the Queen of England. Wow. Now, how come we haven't heard about that yet in the Patriot Movement? How come we haven't heard, from all these people in the damn Patriot Movement that worship the John Birch Society, how come we haven't heard that their biggest funder is a eugenics horse breeder with the Queen of England? How come that's been left out? I'd like to know, please. Thank you. One of the early pioneers of 19th century and spiritualist inquiry was the Ghost Society of the University of Cambridge. In 1851, William White Benson, who would later become the Archbishop of Canterbury, founded the Cambridge Ghost Society with J.B. Lightfoot, B.F. Westcott, and Fitton John Anthony Hort, the Society for Psychiatrical Research. An outline of its history and the life of Edward Wright Benson and his son Arthur Benson, documenting the distinguished founders of the Cambridge Ghost Society. But it goes on to talk more about that. We don't have time to get into all that area of it today. But if you get an idea, so essentially what I wanted to do today was go through this. And lots of information will be in, some of it will be in Volume 1, not all of it. And then more of it will be in Volume 2 of The Secret Right. But I was spawned by that article earlier where, this right-wing senator is calling everybody on the left socialist. I hope that you'll look into this stuff for yourself and study the Fabian Socialist movement and realize that their goal for well over 100 years has been to create a society where they can basically lie and obfuscate to the citizens and bring in world international socialism, no matter who's there. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. It's socialism all the way home. Fourth hour around the corner. Tuesday edition of the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Back here within the Global Reality, fourth hour of this Tuesday edition. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us today, folks. Lots more to talk about here today on the duration of the broadcast. Lots more news to get into today. We're glad you all could be with us. And glad you all could have the time to tune in and get into everything we've got into today. And so much stuff. You missed a lot. You can't just come in after I've been talking about 100 issues and say, what'd I miss? And expect to be caught up. Come on. If you don't tune in for the whole show, you're going to miss stuff. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. DJ B2, you have the answer. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what he missed. But nonetheless, yeah. Yeah. I see everybody talking about the tea bag party, tea party thing that's going on. And we talked about it last week. It's such a fraud. This stuff's been, the Heritage Foundation, Forbes, Steve Forbes, who else? Dick Armey. All these CNP types, Heritage Foundation. Give me a break. And of course, now all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe the right wing is now here to save us with their teabag parties. Give me a break. But it's like I always say, it's like these same people that say, we got to stand up for this Constitution. These people, these are the white aristocratic landowners of the modern day. And that's all they care about. See, there are some of us who weren't, our families weren't white aristocratic landowners back in the day. So the Constitution wasn't made for us. So they get us all behind that feel-good thing, don't they? They get us all behind believing it. It's just a phony controlled movement. Where were these people during the 8 years Bush was in office? How come they weren't out doing this when Bush was in office? Because it's not about that. When Bush was in, that was their man. He was on the right wing, so, hey, it's okay. But now we got to go out and teabag the situation because, the lefties are in there now. It's just a fraud. As we talked about in the last segment, these people are all socialists. They're all of their, whether they know it or not, and some of them are unwilling dupes. They just don't even know what they're involved in. That's the whole thing about it, is that they don't understand that exactly what it is that's going on. They don't understand that either way, they're following a socialist movement. That's just the bottom line. And, I'm just worried it's going to be too late. I'm just worried about that, it's going to be... it's going to be too late when people figure out. But, I did find out, and I wish I had a way to go do this tomorrow. I just don't have the resources or the funds to go down there. Or I'd go down there and teabag on myself. Because what I wanted to do, I just don't have the resources to do it. I just don't have the money, and my war chest has been depleted because I put all my money into the DVDs. But if I had the money, I tell you what I would do tomorrow. If I had the money, I would take the day off from the show, and I would go to Radio Shack, and I'd spend $80 if I had it, and I would go and buy a bullhorn, and I would go down to the tea bag party protest. Guess where they're having it here in Dallas? This is beautiful, man. If I had the money and the resource, I'd go do this tomorrow. I just don't. They're having it at Dallas City Hall. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to broadcast it live on the Hannity Show from Dallas. Well, I would love to go down there and teabag their tea party and go down there with a bullhorn and bullhorn the protest and tell them that it was, they're protesting socialists, and it's socialists who funded these tea bag parties, I can't remember the name of the tea party things. I would tell them. I would go down there if I had the money to do it. I would go down there and I would go bullhorn them, and go protest their protest and say you're all a bunch of socialists. It's all fraud. The Council for National Policy is putting up this protest. Sean Hannity eats babies. That'd be great. I'd love to go down there, man, and just go down there and just tell people, hey, look, you know what? This is all a fraud, right? You realize these people are in the same. You realize these people are in the same friggin' team as the rest of them, right? You do realize that, right? I'd love to go down there and do that. That would just be so hilarious. They'd probably haul me off to a FEMA camp, but whatever. Probably get a good video out of it. I'd probably get tased. I might end up in some dungeon somewhere with Man Coulter standing over me with her Adam's apple. Oh, God. Second thought, I'm not going to do that. Oh. I mean, the jeebies, man. Just thinking about, oh, God. Oh, man. Wind up in some dungeon somewhere with a gag ball with Man Coulter with a whip. Jesus Christ. That's a thought. That's a fate worse than death right there, isn't it? Good Lord. End up with that. Whoa, God. I'm somewhere with her. Because, she has that man voice like this. That would just, oh, man. I just beg them to shoot me is what I'd do. Christ. Please. Just shoot me. Send me down to the dungeon with a man. That would just be, that'd be horrible. But, no, there's no telling. Because, I guarantee it's going to be spook central out there. God. I bet there's going to be, I would like to go just to see how many spooks are out there. Because, there's going to be more spooks per capita than you can even put your hand on. I guarantee you there's going to be, man hands Coulter. You ever seen her hands? Her hands are bigger than mine are. Jeez Louise, man. I'm telling you, I'm convinced that Man Coulter had a sex change. I'm convinced that was a man at some point. That was a man that had a sex change. And Bill O'Reilly and all these other queers on the right wing just pass that thing around like their little tart at parties. Because, hey, maybe she used to be a man, but she's a woman now. So, hey, why not? I wouldn't doubt it. I really would not doubt that that thing used to be a man at some point. I'm telling you, I really am convinced that used to be a man. Yeah, there's a picture. There's a picture of me right there of what would happen to me if I went to the protest. But yeah, it's unbelievable. Anyway, but so we've seen this of what's going on with these. What's going on with these various protests and stuff. We talked about that. It's just amazing how people can't see. That's one other thing is that people don't understand that why these groups like the Council for National Policy and the rest of them, why they do this is to stop any sort of grassroots movements from starting up on their own. So that's what they don't want. Is they don't want people who actually are, have a problem with what's going on to stand up. No, they create the phony resistance And then they create the phony resistance movements. They get people behind it and parrot it. And then what happens? I mean, you don't think you're going to be documented 7 ways to Sunday when you go out to one of these things? You're going to one of these teabag parties? You know, not that you're already on every kind of list imaginable, but the point of the matter is, this is a government operation, folks, that is appearing to be against Obama. And all they're doing is they're putting people out to identify who are the dissenters that are against Obama, to put them in a database that's specifically for those purposes. That's all it is. That's all it is. And people just don't see it. And the fact of the matter is, I'm just to the point anymore where I'm just getting to the point where I just don't care anymore. Because there's going to be a bunch of these Kool-Aid drinking patriot followers that won't wake up to the fact that they're following a fraud, that won't wake up to the fact that the entire patriot movement has been a government operation and a CIA-led operation going back to the 1980s that spawned out of the John Birch Society and the rest of these intelligence operations. And what's going to happen is there's going to end up being a provocateur armed conflict event. And that's going to happen. And what's going to end up happening is that somebody like, poor Luke Radowski, I feel sorry for that kid. He's a good kid. I interviewed him back when I was first on air. And somebody like him or somebody's going to end up getting shot and killed. And a bunch of patriots are going to be whipped up into a furor for armed conflict. And a bunch of good people who mean well, who have the best intentions of themselves, their family, and their country at heart, are going to lose their lives because they followed a phony movement because they didn't know any better. And, there's a part of me that makes me sad about that, folks, and that's why I'm doing my best to just talk about this stuff and hopefully try to and if we can save a few lives, and I know we have. I know we've woken up some people to this fraud, and I'm grateful for that, but I just, it saddens me that we can't wake up more. We can't show more people this fraud of what's going on. And, but at the same time, then there's another part of me. There's another part of me that just has to just sort of dust my feet off and move on and say, that I just has to dust my feet off and say, I just got to let it go. Because they're not going to take out all the resistance. They may take out a great deal of it, and it may be a lot of these people that have followed the phony patriot movement. A lot of those people may get whipped up into a furor when an armed conflict is propagated, and they may lose their lives. But they're not going to get all of us, because a lot of us are going to have woken up to this, and a lot of us have, have figured this out. And so we're not going to follow it. But I do at the same time feel bad and do feel sad for those type of people. But that's why from day one here we've and I did this long before we were on this network, but that's why with the advent of this network, and we started this network back in August, that was one of the first things we started trying to tell people was that, look, people trying to still rope us back in and associate us back in with that old school patriot movement. We're not a part of that here. I'm not a part of that movement. I'm not a part of that, whatever that is. And, not people that are on this network and don't consider themselves that, and certainly my listeners don't. It just, that's the whole thing. But this is what they want. And, we've been seeing all of these documents that have been going around, this new documents that have come out that are basically Project Megiddo 2.0. They do this every time. They did this back when Clinton was in office. They're doing it all over again. They did that when they had Project Megiddo when Clinton was in office prior to Y2K, where they ran this operation that was seeking to identify patriot Christian militia members and gun owners who believed in a UN-led New World Order takeover conspiracy theory on Y2K. And now they're running these documents. They're doing the same thing now, except they just changed the terminology to basically say, these people believe in a UN-led New World Order takeover via Barack Obama. And it's the same thing, and they're just doing it all over again. This is what they do because they know that because the Patriot movement and gun owners and like that have been predominantly associated with right-wing politics, that this stuff is going to pop up anytime there's a Democrat in office. And I just hope that people are aware that they're being socially engineered. I hope that people are aware that they're being goaded and pushed into wanting an armed conflict. They've tried to do it before. We've talked about some of the other cases many times where they've tried to do it. Certainly the Edna Lane Brown situation was one. But they try to do it more and more and more. And I tell you what, it's going to be important that we maintain our vigilance and we maintain our calm and our strength and we stay prepared because I believe there's going to come a time where we're going to have to act because we need to act, not because of some provocation or not because of some patriot movement telling us that it's time to, go pick up the weapons and go storm Washington. The thing about it is, folks, when it becomes time for you to act, you're not going to have orders from headquarters, okay? When you have time, when it becomes time for you to act, when it comes down to that, you're going to know it. And it's not going to take a leader or a movement or anything else to let you know that it's time for you to get up off your ass and do something. You're going to know it. It's going to be instinctual. And you're not going to need any of these patriot movements to tell you when to go to the sound of the guns. More on the other side. This is the Global Reality Tuesday edition. Stay with us. Back here with you on the Global Reality on this Tuesday edition. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us. And lots more to talk about here. Again, I mean, look, I'm completely nonviolent in everything I do. I've never, ever thought that violence is ever an answer to any of this stuff. And in fact, they want us to get violent. Screw that. But, the fact of the matter is that, again, on whose terms? That's what it all boils down to here, folks. With any of this stuff, we've got to start understanding that, on whose terms are we doing any of this? And all these movements and all these things have been started so that in lieu of you starting your own group and in lieu of you starting your own movement, boom, there's already a prepackaged, ready-made movement or group there for you to fall into that has, apparently seemingly has the same ideologies that you have. That you can just go right into. And that's why when people start finding out that those have their own paradigms to them. It's like the 9/11 Truth thing. Oh, you can be a member of the 9/11 Truth movement, but you damn sure better believe all the things that the 9/11 Truth movement believes about thermite, and everything else. And heaven forbid you bring in any alternative theories outside of the group. Otherwise, you're going to be, labeled. It reminds me of on South Park. Once there was I think it was Stan or Kyle goes to join the goth kids, and the goth kids are like, "Do you want to join our nonconformist group? You can join our group of nonconformists as long as you listen to the same music and wear the same clothes we do." Well, that's what it becomes. That's what all these movements become. Oh yeah, we're nonconformist. But, you can join our nonconformist group and make sure you have the same hairstyle, the same clothes, and listen to the same music, and you like the same thing the same way we do. Then you can join our nonconformist group. I mean, what is that? And so that's what a lot of this stuff becomes. They become their own paradigms, and they're there by design to get you roped into. It's the same thing with these militias. And this whole militia movement was started by Larry Pratt and Howard Phillips in the 1990s to the United States Taxpayers Party, which eventually became the Constitution Party. And people buy into that whole idea. And then that crap that came out from the Alex Jones camp a couple of weeks ago when they started trying to attach him to the shooting from the Pittsburgh guy because apparently this guy had visited, InfoWars or something. So automatically that meant that he somehow that was connected to them. But, that's not really the issue. As I stated yesterday, I mean, when you put out that much fear, eventually something like this is going to happen. It doesn't mean that that's connected to that person. It doesn't mean that Alex Jones caused this guy to go out and shoot. But what I'm saying is, I think that Alex Jones does put out the information he puts out in a fear-mongering fashion. And that's just my opinion. And so I think that eventually that's going to cause that. Now, what I do have a problem with is when he wrote this article saying that the militia movements were created and started by the Anti-Defamation League, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the FBI, and that's just patently false. I'm sorry. But, I guess you wouldn't have that good endorsement by Gun Owners of America and wouldn't be able to have Larry Pratt on his show anymore, so I guess he's not going to put out that information. But I will. And I'll put the information out there and let you go check it out on your own and find out what the real truth is about who started these militia movements. But that's what they did. And so we had that conversation a couple weeks ago. And people were like, well, the idea of having a militia is good, armed militia. Right, but not ones that are already formed. Start a militia on your own and do it in secret and don't tell anybody about it. And don't have a friggin' MySpace or a website or about it. Or advertise it out there. If you want to have a militia, do it in secret and don't tell anybody about it, man. My God. Get you and 20 or 30 of your buddies that are armed and know what the hell's going on with the New World Order and start your own group and don't tell anybody about it. And just be ready and be planning and be getting yourself prepared and be getting ready. But don't come in the chat room and talk about it, and don't make a website for it. And don't broadcast it out to the world that you have it. Start your own little thing in secret and keep it to yourself. And don't make it anybody's business but you and a few other special people that you trust and and you've checked out and vetted. How come nobody's put this idea out yet? I don't even have any interest in being in a militia or any crap like that. I mean, I just don't. I'm not. That's not me. That's not me. That's not what I do. But my God. Why is it that we have to be so out in the open and advertise all this stuff? Why? Start your own little pockets of resistance and don't tell anybody about it. And then those are going to be the people. Again, I've been saying for the almost 2 years that I've been on air now, a year and a half I've been on air, that it's going to be a minority of the minority that in the end truly affects change. It's not going to be a movement or a leader or any big group of people. Because you're going to have one packet of resistance that's been following the phony control patriot movement to this point, and they're going to get wiped out in the first wave. And as I said earlier, I'm just hoping that with the information we've been putting out on the show and through the rest of this and through the films, maybe we can wake up some of those people. Maybe we can pull some of those people out of that paradigm, and maybe we'll save some lives. But I also am realistic about the fact that I know there are going to be quite a few lives lost in that first wave. But that doesn't mean everybody needs to be wiped out. That's why you don't jump and run when they tell you to jump and run. You sit back, you let what's going to happen, and you bide your time until that time comes when you know it's time for you personally with what you need to do to act on your own, and not because some leader or somebody else told you. That's all there is to that. But again, when you're, if you're jumping on these things where, let's go join the Armed Patriot Citizens Militia now on MySpace. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm here to tell you right now. If you're signing up for some militia group on MySpace, you're just an idiot. You're just flat, slap bone, an idiot. Need to have your head examined, or anything else online for that matter. If you're joining the NRA or Gun Owners of America or Jews for the Preservation of Firearms or any of these other groups, you need to have your head examined. It's just that this is the bottom line, folks. So, again, my whole point here is that on whose terms? Are you going to do things on the terms of somebody else? Are you going to stand up and be a man and separate yourself from movements and leaders and all the rest of this stuff and say, look, I'm going to do this stuff on my terms. I'm going to do this stuff because I say it's time to do it, not because somebody else is telling me to. That's the bottom line here, folks. We can have resistance, but we don't have to advertise out to the world what all that resistance is, now do we? We sure don't. We're on the other side, final half hour on the corner. Lots of news to get into in the final half hour of today's broadcast. This is the Global Reality. Stay with us. Back here with you on this final half hour of the Tuesday edition of the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being with us today. And some people in the chat room talking about Jack McLamb. Yeah, Lee Rogers discovered that a few months ago and pointed that out to me and said, hey, look at this. Because he was one of those, Jack McLamb was all those ones. I just knew he had to be CNP, but I could never connect him to the Council for National Policy. But There's been a few like that. And then lo and behold, you go to look at Jack McLean's website, and there it is. Right there listed in the middle of the page. You scroll down, it says it has a member, there's an affiliation of all those groups. Here it is. It says right there that Jack McLean's a member of the Council for National Policy. And what's funny about that is they're not supposed to admit that they're members. They're supposed to keep it a secret. But there's several out there. Jerome Corsi's the same way. He'll just proudly tell you he's a member. But then there's other ones that go to great lengths to keep their membership a secret. You know, like Dr. Stan Monteith and his wife Barbara Monteith. They've both been listed on lists going back 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But yet if you call him and ask him about if he's a member, he'll get mad and yell and scream at you, and then he'll tell you that that he and his wife were made members of the Council for National Policy on accident. On accident, huh? Okay, so let me get this straight, Monteith. According to you, you and your wife were both made members of a secretive group that you have to be, first, number one, pay money to get into, and then number two, be vetted by every single member of the group, including, you know, any of the high-level minions like Ashcroft or any of the rest of these clowns. You know, so, oh, yeah, but he accidentally got it. Him and his wife accidentally got made members. I love it, man. I love it. It's like saying, how do you accidentally become a cult leader or accidentally become a mob boss? Well, I don't know how it happened. I just accidentally became a mob boss. I don't know. It wasn't my problem. I don't know how it happened. Just happened. But yeah. But that's what I've been saying, man. And it's exactly what I've been trying to tell you over these past several segments is about, these are the type of people that are formulating phony movements. And they have different levels to it. They have the one now that is becoming more mainstream than they have other ones. And this is why we've been such a threat. This is why they tried to take down our shows and our networks. This is why they tried to sabotage our sponsors. This is all the reason why they've all done all this stuff. Is because as soon as you don't fall into their mainstream movement, you're a threat. And that's the whole thing about it. So let's get it back into some news right now in the final two segments here. Bloomberg finances gun control ad in Virginia race. Mayor Michael Knights of Malta Bloomberg is getting involved in an election other than his own this November thanks to an issue he has long cared about, gun control. Hoping to make a splash in the Virginia governor's race, Mr. Bloomberg showed up here Monday to unveil a new commercial criticizing former Attorney General Robert F. McDonnell, the presumptive Republican nominee who was a strong gun rights supporter. Mr. Bloomberg was joined by about a dozen people, including survivors of the Virginia Tech shootings, their relatives, and Tatiana Tomashenko, the mother of the police officer Russell Tomashenko, who was fatally shot during a traffic stop in Clown Heights in Brooklyn. And, of course, you've got all these, people on the left and the right and all the rest of it that are involved in the Knights of Malta that are all, some of them are anti-gun control, some of them are non-control. It's all phony smoke and mirrors of the public. As usual, Goldman pushes stock issue to plan to escape U.S. grip. From the Wall Street Journal today, Goldman Sachs Group, frustrated that federally mandated pay caps, has been plotting for months to get out from under the government's thumb. On Monday, Goldman took fresh steps to break free and announced as expected that it plans to raise $5 billion by selling new common shares to investors. And they would like to use the money to repay government bailout money received last year. The firm also reported stronger than expected first quarter earnings of $1.81 billion. Goldman managers have a big incentive to escape the state's clutches. Last year, 953 Goldman employees, nearly 1 in 30 were, and then it cuts off. I guess that's all the article we get. All right. Let's move on from that one then. Forget Star Wars is back to colonial warfare. There are a lot of unhappy campers at the Pentagon right now. U.S. Senator Robert Gates chose last week to present a controversial new budget that will affect the course of U.S. foreign policy and military for decades to come. And, it's back to the same old thing here. What else we got? Guardian UK, they've got your number. Every call made, email sent, and website visited is now being logged under new regulations. What does that mean for investigative journalists and their need to protect sources? Want to be an investigative journalist in the future? You'll need a pen, paper, pay-as-you-go phone, and a motorbike. We'll explain the motorbike later, but you may be an endangered species. new regulations that came into force last week requiring telephone and internet companies to keep logs of what numbers are called and which websites and email services internet telephony contacts are made have left some wondering if investigative journalism, with its need to protect sources and its sources' need often for protection, has been dealt a killer blow. Worries focus on the fact that every government department, local council, and even Quango can access this telephone and internet data. And that's what, yeah, of course, you know, that's what the whole thing's about. If somebody leaks information or somebody puts out information that the powers that be don't want out, boom, the source is not protected anymore, and they go round anybody up. This is a strange one out of Indiana. A man dies after sword fight that killed woman. A man died Monday after he was stabbed in a sword fight with a grandson of a woman who was also fatally stabbed when she tried to intervene in the fight. Adolf Stingbauer, 69, died from complications of a stab wound. Indianapolis police said charges that were already pending against the man who police said stabbed Stingbauer, Chris Rondeau, 39, were expected to be upgraded. Francis Stingbauer, 77, also died as a result of stab wounds after the fight early Thursday morning. The police were not initially sure which of the men had stabbed her. Rondeau and Alice Stingbauer got into an argument at the home in the 5200 block of Raceway Road that escalated when one of the men grabbed a sword, prompting the other men to brandish a sword. Rondeau was being held on attempted murder charge stemming from the stabbing of Adolf Stegmeyer. So they got a freaking sword fight and people die? What's going on with people? Good Lord. Man, oh man, I tell you what, this gets weirder and weirder every day here. Obama to allow travel and money transfers to Cuba. What did I tell you back in November on the elections? That pretty soon, by the end of 2009, you're going to see lowriders up on blocks, sitting up on blocks in American streets. I mean, you are. It's going to look like Cuba here pretty quick. President Barack Obama directed his administration Monday to allow unlimited travel and money transfers by Cuban Americans to families in Cuba and to take other steps to ease U.S. restrictions on the island, a senior administration official told the Associated Press. The formal announcement was being made at the White House Monday afternoon during presidential spokesman Robert Gibbs' daily briefings with reporters. The official spoke on condition of anonymity so that not to upstage the president's announcement. With the changes, Obama aims to create new space for Cuban people in their quest for political freedom and democratic government, in part about making less dependent on the Castro regime. No, this is about opening up another piece of land to bring under the guise of global government. Then this is the first step. In order for them to bring all the countries of the world under the guise of the New World Order, there can't be any sanctions by any of the other governments. This is the complete takeover by the Western Hemisphere into the world socialist New World Order system, folks. I mean, this is it. We're here now. It's here. It's not going to happen like we've been hearing about for 10, 15, 20 years, 50 years. It's here. It's happening. Live, 3D, Panavision color. That's all there is to it. Final segment around the corner. Big news blitz in the final segment of today's broadcast. This is the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Back here with you, final segment of the Tuesday edition of the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. SecretRightMovie.com is the website. And we're going to get into a big final segment news blitz for you today here on this edition of the broadcast. Well, I say big. We really don't have a whole lot of news stories left, to be honest with you. We covered most of the news we had to get in today. Wow. Very rarely does that happen. So that's a good thing. Very rarely do I actually get through all the news that I have to cover in one day. Wow. I'm very, very impressed by that because I had a big stack of it today. But I enjoyed the show today. I think we talked about quite a bit of important stuff, and glad you all could be with us. And if you're new to the program, this program airs every Monday through Friday from 11 to 3 Central Standard Time right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network, and also Saturday nights, 10 to midnight Central Standard Time. And you can check out oraclebroadcasting.com for all the information on all this show and other great shows right here 7 days a week on the network. So there you go. U.S. may ease nuclear demands on Iran, says report. The United States could be set to scrap its demand that Iran stop enriching uranium in the early stages of the talks on the Islamic Republic's nuclear program, local media reported on Tuesday. The New York Times said U.S. and European diplomats have considered allowing Iran to continue enriching uranium for some period while talks get off the ground, a sharp shift in policy. The administration of former President George W. Bush had insisted that Iran mothball its uranium enrichment program before talks began amid fears that the activities may be part of a nuclear weapons program. So I find this interesting that now they're saying, now U.S. is going to ease nuclear demands on Iran. And I don't know how many of you guys who have studied history and have studied specifically the Kennedy assassination see a lot of the similarities of what's going on right now with Obama and Kennedy as I do, and especially with all that talk how they were always, they were comparing Obama to Kennedy and Lincoln and all this stuff, almost as if they were acclimating us for some sort of event that was going to happen in the future. I don't know. But do you guys see this? I mean, you look at the reasons why Kennedy was assassinated, and you look into some of this stuff of how, they were saying that a lot of people believed he was soft on communism. Well, I'm almost seeing this idea now where it's almost looking as if the idea is going to be put out there to certain individuals, and this is what I've been trying to point out, to why not following these teabag parties and all this stuff, and not following the phony control patriot, because I really do see at some point, there may be somebody that tries to make an assassination attempt on Barack Obama and maybe somehow associated with the Patriot movement. Because they really did, they labeled JFK being soft on communism. Well, now it's looking as if they're going to start labeling Obama being soft on terrorism. Easing of the nuclear demands on Iran, the opening up of Cuba. We're really starting to see these things these similarities where the reason why certain entities believe that Kennedy was a threat, and we're starting to see I always thought from the get-go that the fact that Barack Obama had an obvious-sounding Muslim name was the first clear-cut sign that we should have been known what was coming down the road. And I remember when I first went on air, I was saying, look, if Barack Obama was to get in, they're going to assassinate him. Then I backpedaled from that when I started realizing how important this guy was to him. But now I'm starting to go back to this thing where, they're going to have him in there just long enough to get what they need done, just long enough to get the New World Order in. And when they've got everything they've got in, they don't need him anymore. They're going to be done with him. So I think this is very interesting because we know, as we talked about yesterday with now Israel and Sharon and the rest of these clowns saying, they're ready for a preemptive strike on Iran, and they're going to get it. If they have to nuke an American city or they have to nuke themselves in order to get it, they're going to get what they want. If you go back and you read what I challenge you, if you've never done it, go back and read the transcript of the speech that Barack Obama gave in front of the AIPAC summit back in June of 2008 last year, and go back and read that where he, pledges $30 million to Israel, and pledges that no matter how much it takes, that one of his biggest priorities will be to protect Israel. So, but then you've got these stories coming out saying the U.S. may ease nuclear demands on Iran. I think we're starting to see a program here. And I don't know how many of you guys saw those coins. I think they were coins or collector's plates or something that came out right back around Christmas. They had Barack Obama on one side and JFK on the other. What the hell is up with that? Who the hell would want a collector's coin that has Barack Obama on one side and JFK on the other? I don't know. That just seems a little cryptic and weird to me. Who knows? Bush aide Perino to join firm led by Clinton advisor. Dana Hot Pants Perino, President George W. Bush's last White House press secretary. Dana Perino. She's a tasty little morsel. It will join Clinton administration advisor Mark Penn and public relations for Burstyn Malstatler, where he would be chief issues counselor. Now, check this out. She's been through some incredibly difficult experiences at some of the highest levels and comes out of an extremely skilled practitioner. And it says that, she's going to be working for a Clinton operative. That's good stuff. As we talked about earlier, it's all phony, left, right. It's all big smoke and mirrors to the public. Really means nothing in the grand scope of things. Politico says Palin most untrustworthy figure in American politics. A new Politico poll released Tuesday finds that President Barack Obama enjoys broad support. Some 66% trust Obama a great deal. or some, and is named the most popular figure in politics today. Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Republican Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, meanwhile, found themselves on the opposite side of the popularity fence. Palin, who enjoyed broad support among the conservative base of the Republican Party during her run for the vice presidency last year, got the highest untrustworthy rating of all the major political figures surveyed at 33%. And that just shows you. That just shows you how unplugged people are. Obama's the most trustworthy. Sarah Palin's the most Sarah Palin being the most untrustworthy politician that there is. She wins number one above, I'm not even going to go into the list, but above anybody else. Above anybody else. All politicians. Sarah Palin somehow considered the most untrustworthy above anybody else. I just, wow. But of course, that same kind of mindset is the same kind of mindset that put Barack Obama in office. It was amazing to me to see how many people became political pundits. People that normally would be drinking 40 ounces and listening to, Jay-Z and watching Cribs on MTV or something, all of a sudden became, political pundits, and all of a sudden became, experts, and wanted to talk to you and tell you what you didn't know about politics, even though they didn't know jack. It's what have now gone completely back to bed. They don't care about politics now. Because of the, the election's over. It doesn't matter now. So there's no need to talk about politics anymore. But it's funny how, all of a sudden people who never have an interest in, all of a sudden when it's a hot topic, become experts. Yeah. But, so Palin is the most untrustworthy person in American politics today that's active. That's incredible. Folks, that's our show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. SecretRightMovie.com is the website. MySpace.com/Global Reality Show. That's how you can support us. My name is Josh Reeves, and I love each and every one of you. And we will see you guys back here tomorrow, 11 to 3 Central Standard Time. You guys have a great rest of the evening. Take care.